wrecks in the Gulf of Mexico are always kind of a surprise to fish. You never really know what you're going to get on, especially spring and fall when you got a lot of fish, going up and down the coast, kingfish, cobia, permit, spring and summer. And I always love to, send the GoPro down, see kind of what's down there. This is a wreck, out past 100 feet of water. And we started to set up a chum line, trying to get some fish up. I've caught a lot of big mangrove snapper, some yellowtails in the past. So you can see a lot of bait. The guy using chicken rig, two little wrasse back there. Cigar minnows. And so I tried to drop the GoPro kind of slow so I could see what's in the water column. We got amberjack there. Barracuda. There's tons of barracudas all around the boat. And big old bait school back there. So slowly going down, you can see the barracudas at the top, kind of swimming with it. Another barracuda on the left. Another barracuda on the left. And then, Mr. Permit right here. A lot of permit out on the wrecks, as the water's starting to warm up for the spring. And then also a yellowtail. This is probably halfway down the water column. And so to me, when I see yellowtails up in the water, that means, they're looking to feed. And so that's when I'll bust out jig heads. And that's something we did here is, use a lot of light 1/4 ounce jig heads. So you see there's quite a few yellowtails if you can see that up in the water column. But light jig heads with, cut bait, shrimp, another yellowtail there. So they're pretty high up, and that's when they're getting aggressive. I think we caught about 8 or 10 this day. Another yellowtail, between 3 and 5 pounds. Fun fight, light tackle, awesome eating. So now we're getting a little deeper. Yeah, so I think that's another barracuda. There's some amberjacks swimming back there. And there's the AJs kind of coming a little closer to the camera. And so here's the outline of the wreck. Another yellowtail sitting right up down in it. We got, with the trolling motor GPS, Rodan right up in front of the wreck. Perfect spot. So more yellowtails. There's a couple grouper and lots of mangrove snapper. And you'll see there's some big mangoes that are sent on this. So more bait, more amberjack, more cudas. Just kind of all around it. Amberjack, very curious. Love to, see what's down there. So you can see big school. And then this mango right here, it's a big one. It's as big as most of these amberjack. So as you see, he'll kind of square up in the camera. And he's, probably pushing 10 pounds, which is a monster mangrove snapper for this coast. That one right there. It's a beast, to say the least. I'm curious what other people might think how big it is. Didn't get any mangoes this day. The yellowtails were a little aggressive, which is a good thing. And then we couldn't really get baits down deep when the current picked up, but there was a lot of them. This would be a good spot to fish probably at night. Getting the mangoes up in the water column, so you can see more yellowtails, more cigar minnows, all around, more mangoes. So as it kind of comes around, more of the same. I think this was an old shrimp boat from what I've been told. I'm not really too sure. I don't dive it. All I didn't really know about it, I see in my own videos, dropping the GoPro down. But typically there's a lot of Goliaths that'll sit up in it. Don't really see any of them on here today. In the past, I've seen plenty of them around this. Some days I don't see any mangrove snapper on it. So, knowing right now that there's a ton of them out in this depth is good. So there's that real big one. He's a different color. He almost, does not look like these ones with the dark. He's got real light shading to him. That is another big one that might be, another 8-10 pounder. They almost look like red snapper. They're so wide and big. And I think there will be a red snapper that kind of comes in. So you can see that these are some big mangrove snapper. So there is, I think that one is a red snapper. Somebody's bait right there with a hook. Fish do not seem interested down on the bottom. So that one is a red snapper right there. That's probably, an 8-pound red snapper to get some perspective on the size of the mangoes. And AJ. Always find it interesting when fish kind of bump along the bottom. So a very cool look at, what's kind of down there. You got some little grouper. I think there's a rock hinds. We caught a couple as well. But for the future, I'm definitely going to keep in mind, hey, there's a lot of mangoes on this in the spring. I've had some days in the past where we get, 20 or 30 of them when they turn on. But it's hard to get mangoes that fired up, especially on wrecks, because you're trying to use light tackle and some live bait, and you'll get, a lot of amberjacks that'll hit you and kind of go through your time. That permit you saw, we did end up getting one 30-pound permit off this wreck, which is good. A lot of fun. Getting the big ones. There's a beeliner. So not a ton of bait on the bottom. Most of the bait was on the surface. So there was actually, I'll go back here, one Goliath right there. I think that's the only one that I saw this time filming. I don't know if they were sitting on the other side of the wreck. It's not a real big wreck. It's probably only, 50, 60 feet long. But I've seen, dozens of them dropping the GoPro down here in the past. So just the one makes me think, they're just sitting on the other side, and the mangoes were kind of up current, and the Goliaths were down current. Just kind of one hanging out in the shadows there. Some scamp grouper as well. So lots of life, and that might be one little Goliath right there. Hard to tell kind of through all these beeliners that just moved into the camera. Right there, maybe another Goliath. Or it's a big grouper, one or the other. Hard to tell. Right there. It might be a big gag or a black grouper too. So lots of snapper. I tried to reel it up slow too to kind of get a perspective of what's on the spot and up in the water column a little bit. Water wasn't super clean. Some days you get these 100 foot plus deep wrecks, and you'll be able to see it from halfway down. It's probably about 20 to 30 feet of visibility. Just happened to drop the GoPro in the perfect spot to see the wreck and all the fish around it. So coming up through the water column, you see some fish off in the distance. Not nearly as much as on the drop. Barracuda kind of checking out the camera right there. So almost to the surface now. Not a whole lot as it's coming up through the water column. And so right when it gets to the top, you'll see all the bait. The bait was going crazy around the boat. We had a chum line going. Couldn't even get the chum past the cigar minnows. They were being so aggressive. So I think if we were able to do that, maybe chum some little bigger baits or whatever, could have gotten those yellowtails higher up in the water column. But we were hooking about halfway down. Like I said, light quarter ounce, 1/8 ounce jig heads. A lot of fun. Free line of crabs for the permit. A lot of stuff you can do on the wrecks out in the spring and summer.